House Select Committee has met with Trump's former Attorney General William Barr. Here's Committee Chairman Benny Thompson earlier this morning.
To be honest with you, we've had conversations with the former Attorney General already. We've talked to Department of Defense individuals. We are concerned that our military was part of this big lie on promoting that the election was false. So if you are using the military to potentially seize voting machines, even though it's a discussion, the public needs to know.
And that last part based on a December 2020 draft executive order first reported by Politico that would have had the Pentagon seize voting machines. A frightening detail that appears to be just one piece of a highly orchestrated, multi-tiered coup plot involving key Trump allies. And now that House investigators have their hands on hundreds of White House documents that Trump tried to keep secret, the question is what more will come to light? And let's ask somebody from the January 6th committee, Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren of California. Congresswoman, we really appreciate your time. Thanks so much as always. How many times did the committee speak with former Attorney General Barr? Did he come in voluntarily, and did he do more than, I guess, offer monosyllabic responses to your questions?
Well, let me just say it was more than once, and it was a voluntary discussion with our staff attorneys, and we appreciate his willingness to help us find the truth.
And as you know, Congresswoman, Barr resigned the same month that that draft order on seizing voting machines and appointing a special counsel to oversee election fraud was apparently written. Do you know, was Bill Barr aware of that draft letter?
Well, one of the things that is a committee rule is that we don't discuss interviews unless we have a vote of the committee to release information. So I'm afraid I'm not able to go into any of the details. But let me just say, we're very concerned about that memo. It was not sent, issued, but it does show a very wide-ranging plot. And of course, now we are getting, with the Supreme Court's overwhelming decision, we're getting information from the archives that will help fill in some of the blanks, some of the material, the 700 pages we got late last week. Some of it is routine, some of it is of greater interest, but there's a lot more that we expect to get in the coming days and weeks. So this is very much an active investigation.
And Congresswoman, last week we learned that you did not get those outtakes, as they've been described as, right, from that January 6th video that Trump recorded telling the rioters to go home, among other things. How confident are you that these clips continue to exist? And might that be sent over by the National Archives in one of these upcoming tranches of information that you're hoping to get? I mean, I suppose you should be getting another delivery, what, this week? Is that your expectation?
Yes, yes. And let me just say this. We know that everyone in the White House was admonished by their legal staff that they had to turn everything over to the archives to comply with the law. So if they follow the law, those outtakes will be in the possession of the archives. We have asked for the outtakes, and if they exist, if the Trump administration complied with the law, then we will get them. And we think it will provide some insight into what was going on the day of the riot, what the president's intentions were, what his state of mind was.
And the committee is now asking Ivanka Trump to voluntarily cooperate. The former president, he was complaining about this move in a call with the Washington Examiner, saying, and we can put this up on screen, it's a very unfair situation for my children, is the word he used, very, very unfair. They're using these things to try and get people's minds off how incompetently our country is being run, and they don't care. They go after children. Ivanka Trump is not a child, his children are adults now, but what's your response?
Well, first, we're not going after anybody. We're just asking for information. Number two, as you pointed out, Ivanka Trump is 40 years old. She is not a child. And three, the reason why we want to talk to her is that she was given a position by the former president in the White House as a senior advisor. She was there and talked to the president on the day of the riot. We understand from testimony of others, she was asked to convince the president to call the riot off. So we'd like to know about that. It's not because she's the daughter of the president, it's because she had an official role in the White House that the president appointed her to.
Right. And this morning on Fox, I wanted to get your response to this. The former House Speaker Newt Gingrich suggested that you and everyone else on the January 6th committee are criminals who should be put behind bars. He was saying that the Republicans, when they come back into Congress, should be threatening you and your colleagues on the committee with jail time. Let's watch.
These are people who are literally just running over the law, pursuing innocent people, causing them to spend thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees for no justification. And it's basically a lynch mob. I think when you have a Republican Congress, this is all going to come crashing down, and the wolves are going to find out that they're now sheep, and they're the ones who are in fact going to, I think, face a real risk of jail for the kind of laws they're breaking.
What is your response to that, Congresswoman?
That's just bizarre. I think Newt has really lost it. It leaves me speechless. I mean, unless he is assuming that the government does get overthrown and there's no system of justice, just random arrests. I mean, it's just a bizarre statement, and he looks terrible.
It sounds like something out of an autocratic government or something. I mean, you and your colleagues are attempting to conduct an investigation, something that was supported by many Republicans up on Capitol Hill in the days following January 6th. They wanted to get to the bottom of it too. Unfortunately, their tune has changed over the last several months.
Well, that's true. And Mr. McConnell said that the president bore responsibility. So did the Republican leader in the House, Mr. McCarthy, and many others. We are uncovering a plot, it looks like, to overturn the peaceful transfer of power, to essentially overturn our system of government. I think that's pretty serious, and I think most Americans would agree. We're going to do our job despite, bizarre threats such as Newt Gingrich's weird comments, and we're going to get all the information and we're going to make it known to the American people, and we're going to look at what could be changed legislatively. We're a legislative committee. We're not going after anybody. We're going after the truth, and it will give us some insight into laws that should be changed, perhaps. For example, the Electoral Count Act that Liz Cheney and I are working on. I personally think that we should revisit the elements of the Insurrection Act that the former president threatened to use repeatedly for no reason that was legitimate. There's a lot of things that I think we need to tighten up to protect our law and order society and to avoid the kind of chaos that we saw in the prior administration.
And might other Trump cabinet members testify as part of this investigation? Might we hear about other cabinet members who are cooperating with this investigation?
It is possible, but let me just say that, at the investigative stage, you don't necessarily telegraph everything that you're doing. For example, there are some witnesses who, based on their prior conduct, we might wonder about their veracity. If they don't know what we already know, I think it might encourage them to be more honest with the committee, because it is a felony to lie to Congress. So we are in the investigation stage, and when we have put the entire picture together, we will begin reporting that out to the American people.
All right, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, have a good night. Thanks so much.